Assalamualaikum and a very good day. Thanks for tuning in. In this video, I will do a quick preview of our HRD Corp Train the Trainer certification course by Access Ideas Malaysia. The initial reason for having the Train the Trainer certification course is that HRD Corp wants to emphasize on the importance of setting the right milestones for the trainer before being considered competent. Basically, it is a baseline of what are the things a trainer needs to know prior to getting involved in the training market in Malaysia. So with this in mind, HRD Corp basically has approved 20 TTT vendors or basically training provider companies that is allowed to conduct this program as of 2021. And to make things a little bit clearer and standardized, they have also approved and basically managed to get all of the vendors to follow a strict curriculum structure, and the cost structure is being controlled by HRD Corp. So basically what I'm trying to say is the price is the same, the content should be the same, and also with the introduction of a standard written instruction manual or WIM for short, it would allow all the training providers who offer this TTT certification course to provide the same content or basically the same minimum content required for the trainer who attends this program. So basically you don't have to worry. Whichever training provider you choose in terms of content, it should be standardized. Now, what makes Access Ideas Malaysia Sdn Bhd a little bit different, or what sets us apart from the other vendors is, first and foremost, back in 2017, as a small setup back then, we actually managed to get a 4-star rating from HRDF prior to the rebranding of HRD Corp as a 4-star training provider. Now, this star rating was actually based on certain set criteria that upon that time was the desired level of how a training provider should be from the perspective of HRDF. We are also one of the approved TTT vendors since 2018, and over the years we have traveled throughout the country, going to places like Miri, Batu Pahat in Johor, all the way to Sabah, Sarawak in Kuching, and also different parts of Terengganu and Pahang. So basically we have been around and we have met with many trainers, different types of trainers, different background, different topics, and it has helped us to see a different perspective when it comes to providing the Train the Trainer program to enable these different types of trainers to make the content relatable to them. As of 1st January 2022, we have 492 of our graduates, which we call our TTT alumni, and like I said, they are spread throughout the country with different backgrounds, and Alhamdulillah, all of them are certified trainers, and they have been basically quite active in the industry. And our approach to this TTT program, apart from making it very practical despite the choice of topic and also the background of the trainers, we try to make it very practical in our approach, and at the same time we try to give our alumni a little bit of an edge by making sure that they always have a place to come back to refer, to ask questions, and to help them beyond the Train the Trainer program. Our aim is basically to ensure that not only we deliver what is in the content of TTT, but to allow the participants to experience the concept and theories through the program itself. We try to ensure that all participants get to practice the techniques that has been delivered in the program, and at the same time understand that there is always a need for improvement. I always say that the biggest room is always room for improvement, not just for the participant, but also us as a training provider, me, myself as a lead trainer. There's always new things to learn from each and every one of the participants that join our training program. The training schedule, as I have mentioned, is based on the curriculum structure and has been basically guided by HRD Corp, with having the final day as the assessment, whether you comply with the requirements and the assessment criteria would enable you to either be a competent trainer, or basically being certified, TTT certified trainer, and you will all be given a specific amount of time to do a mock training. Now, this mock training, and also with the concept of training itself, what we do differently is we allow the participants to have a dry run. Now, when we talk about training, it is always the element of practice. So the dry run enables the participants to do the session and allow them to get feedback from us before going through the final assessment. Now, this feedback, I believe, is very crucial, so that, number one, the participant themselves gets a good idea of whether what they thought of when they designed the program, whether it's suitable to be delivered in the time that is allocated to them or not. And based on what they think is possible, we give them some more feedback to basically ensure that they comply with all of the assessment criteria, and also at the same time to show them that if they apply the right techniques, the results would be a little bit more effective and beneficial to their advantage. Now, the modules itself consists of 5 modules for TTT, starting with planned adult learning. And normally I would spend a little bit more time here because I believe that the fundamentals of understanding the differentiation between training adults or the adult audience versus the other general audience is different, and the strategies that a trainer must apply should also be different. From there, we will look at the perspective of what a trainer needs to know in terms of conducting a training needs analysis. This is also to ensure that the HRD Corp contributing employers would also have a fair amount of, I would say, customization in terms of the training program that they require from the trainer themselves. From the TNA, or basically by understanding TNA, the trainer should be able to design a good competency-based training program. And when we talk about competencies, we look at the element that is within the competency of the required task by understanding the TNA itself. Now, when a trainer design a competency-based training program, definitely the next step is for them to be able to conduct the training effectively and efficiently to the best capability of the trainer. And also not to forget that when a trainer plans for a training program or designs a training program, definitely at the end of it, the trainer must have some form of assessment, and to enable the trainer to have a good assurance in terms of what is the desired outcome by the employer, to have this awareness about assessing the participants' competence based on what they have designed. So I believe that this is a good holistic view of what a training should be, and what HRD Corp has put together is basically essential, especially for new trainers or even experienced trainers who may have gone through training through informal and basically experience. This allows them to see things in a more structured manner. Now, for us, we believe that a competent trainer should have the ability to, of course, number one, deliver training. This is very common. A lot of people look at training delivery as one of the major aspects of training. At the same time, if the trainer could actually create his or her own training modules and based on contents from their own life experience and also their areas of expertise, that would definitely be a plus point. And what better way to deliver a training and design a training content if the trainer has good understanding of the audience perspective. So if a trainer can put themselves in the shoes of the participant and see it from the participant's eyes on how they could actually learn better, now this would definitely enable the trainer in our eyes to be a very competent trainer. Of course, you may not have to do all of these three, but being able to be aware that all of these three areas contributes to being a competent trainer is very important. The concept of andragogy will be touched during the training program itself, and basically the idea here is to enable the trainers to understand that when we approach adult learning or when we approach the adult learning audience or the adult audience, the idea here is to ensure that in our training program we incorporate the four principles, the pillars of andragogy, which is to get the adult learners involved in the training rather than it's a one-way lecture based training program. We try as much as possible to involve the adult learners in their learning process, to allow them to share their experience and to allow the trainer themselves to listen and use or leverage the audience experience to enhance the topic that is being delivered. Of course, looking at what the trainer share must be always relevant to the actual audience and to focus on the problems that they may have faced to possibly shed some light on the solution rather than just a one way you have to learn from me kind of mindset. Now we also touch on learning styles, and I believe most of the trainers will be aware of the common learning styles, and this is very important and very crucial, but most importantly is to understand that the learning styles will affect the delivery of the training, or basically would influence the strategies that a trainer needs to put in place. There is also the need to understand that whenever a training is being constructed, the trainer must be aware of the three training needs from the organization's perspective, department perspective, and also the needs of the individual themselves in the training program. Last but not least, as trainers, we must always be aware of how the effectiveness of a training is being evaluated. Yes, we may be used to filling up the feedback form at the end of the training session. This is only level 1 according to Kirkpatrick model, with that being measuring the reaction, whether the participants like the program, whether the materials were relevant, was the trainer good in their delivery. This is all measuring level 1 reaction. What we want the trainers to be aware of is to move to the next level, which is to ensure that learning occurs in the program itself, and eventually would lead to behavior changes, the appropriate, the right behavior changes that is as the result of the skills or knowledge being used back in the workplace. And this should be reflected in the results that is being desired by the organization, and of course would at the end of it enable the return on investment being seen by the organization when it comes to training. Now, in conclusion, training basically to us through this program, which is the HRD Corp Train the Trainer Certification course, is all about the main components of training, which is to identify the right training needs, to develop modules which fits or the needs or the requirement based on the TNA, to have the trainer think a little bit deeper in terms of what is or what would be the right strategies to deliver those content to the participants, and at the end of it, making sure that the trainer checks whether what they have thought was well received by the audience and whether it was effective or not. So basically, it's a good flow between understanding the needs and identifying the right needs to be able to develop the modules, deliver it strategically, and assessing whether it was effective or not. And this would definitely come back by looking at whether the training needs was correctly identified by the person in charge, or basically those who are involved. Okay. So the key highlights on the know-how and the techniques that we share, or we put forward in our HRD Corp Train the Trainer certification course by Access Ideas is number one, to discuss and possibly find a way so that the trainers would be able to manage the so-called difficult audience, do a little bit of participant profiling prior to the program so that they understand how to approach the crowd and also how to approach the content in terms of delivery, ideation in terms of how training content can be developed, how to plan for the training session itself, considering the audience and also what is the outcome that is desired by the organization, and also to provide feedbacks, individual feedbacks to each of the participants so that they know where they can improve on, and possibly through Access Ideas, it will be a continuous learning effort, not just looking at, I would say, one angle, which is just to get the certificate. So in our Train the Trainer, after the situation of the pandemic, HRD Corp has allowed us to provide two options, which is the face-to-face classroom and also doing the course through online. Of course, the face-to-face would enable the participants to engage better, not just with the trainer, but amongst themselves, as I always find that the time between the formal learning is where the participant would be able to network and bond and see things from different perspectives. And also during the session itself, the trainer would be able to observe better the participants, because some participants are or may be a bit reluctant to share. So if they are comfortable, they can even ask the trainer during break time and whatnot. So that is, I would say, the most advantage that the face-to-face training session has. Now for the online, of course, we try to simulate the experience of the face-to-face training to the best that we can, because you have to remember that the TTT certification course is meant to be the baseline. So the baseline of a training is always the interaction, face-to-face interaction. Of course, through the technologies we have now, we can do it via online or remotely. Having said that, it would be a little bit of a challenge due to the fact that the lead time, or basically how the participant react and responds to interaction through online, always has some slight delays. If you ever realize that, for example, if a trainer asks a question, it would take a few seconds before the participant would respond by unmuting and answering the question. That is always one of the major issues. So the momentum actually changes. But nevertheless, it has allowed training to be more accessible, especially in terms of traveling and also outreach. People from different locations could join the participant, could be the participant of the training program because of the technology made available. So again, I leave it to your choice based on the pros and cons of both options available for you to choose which would be your best choice. So basically that's what I would like to share with you guys today through this video. Hopefully it gives you some ideas and would help you to make the decision on whether you would join the next Train the Trainer session, either with us or anybody else. And also thank you for tuning in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Stay safe.